All right, ready to rock and roll.
All right. We want to do this. Let's go in here. So have you already explained the 4-point wind mitt stuff?
No, haven't.
Okay, so we're doing 3 reports today, essentially 3 inspections. One is a home inspection. One is called a wind mitigation, which is for your insurance company to see if you're eligible for any kind of discounts based on how strong the house is built for hurricane force winds. And in this case, all the windows are impact, so there's a pretty significant deduction for that, so that's good for you. For your insurance, the rest of the structure, there's really no benefit to it because it's old. It's not built to newer techniques, so. But that doesn't mean it's any less strong. It's just insurance companies don't recognize it as being any more strong. So, so the wind mitt's good. And then the 4-point, it's called a 4-point inspection. That's for your insurance also. The 4 points are the 4 principal systems of the house: the roof, the air conditioning, the electric, and the plumbing. Any defect that is in those 4 categories will need to be repaired prior to the house being insurable. Okay? So, and there are a few of those type of items. So those are the 3 reports that we're putting together for you based on the inspection that I've done today. I'll start with the outside, the roof. It's a 1.5 years old. It was installed January of 2019. So it looks good. It's in great condition. It's pretty much brand new. No issues with the roof. The exterior of the house looks pretty good for its age. It is like a hardy board or a asbestos type siding. It's pretty durable. It's been painted. It looks like it's been maintained with paint too over the years, which is a good thing because usually houses of this age, you find them in a lot of cases, in a little bit worse condition. Exterior looks good. Moving along to the back of the house, there's an air conditioning system for each side of the units. The one that's in this unit is from 2001. It's a little older, and it's not really, it's cooling, it's working, but it's not working very well. It's not very efficient. The one next door is 2007, so it's 14 years old right now. It's working too, but they're both just not working really well. They probably need service. Cleaning, coil cleaning, duct cleaning, freon checks, that sort of thing. This one is probably going to not last too much longer. It's in pretty bad condition out there. The garage, the detached shed, because that building isn't used as living space, there's some defects that I'm going to put in the report that are not 4-point items, which is going to be on the home inspection report, even though it is an electrical issue. Because that is a detached building, it's not connected. So it's a little bit different for the 4-point in this case. However, the electric that's in the shed, that's running up the studs and to switches and to outlets, none of that's protected. So there's a risk there.
Well, I'm sorry to
Go ahead.
interrupt. Let me tell you what the ultimate plan is. Their idea is to put tenants in here, and then this is Ed. He's a high-level woodworker, cabinet maker, that sort of stuff. Going to turn that into a workshop.
Okay.
So we interacted some with Duke Energy and said, is it possible to set up a separate electric account there? They said, yes, indeed it is. Their engineer will have to come out and tell them where they're going to drop the meter.
So it's going to be a separate meter then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also they said that it would also matter, there could be an additional cost depending on whether or not the transformer could accommodate that or whether they had to make some sort of accommodation.
I'm sure it could. I mean, what are we talking about? Just like a regular, like a house service?
Yeah.
And they're just using heavy equipment, saws
Yeah.
and that sort of
The
thing?
idea right now is that the electric there is tied to one of these units. We don't know.
This one.
So it's tied to this
Yeah,
one.
this one, yeah.
Right.
We just figured that out. We went out there and looked at it.
Okay. So he's going to be one working independently out there.
Okay.
And,
Now it makes more sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so now it makes more sense. So yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible, But in the meantime, you still may want to think, especially if you're going to be using and working around machinery, you probably want to have that electric protected, either in conduit or put up paneling or something so it conceals the wiring into the studs.
When he's talking about the wires for the electric are just like, stapled to the wall or something like that, and you're supposed to put them in conduit or something like that, protect them so that if you go in there with a weed whacker,
Right.
electrocute
Or conceal them.
That's
That's it.
probably end up cutting the walls anyway.
Yeah.
Some sheathing or something.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as they're behind something or in something where they're protected, it's just a safety precaution that I'm just going to put it in there so you have that information. As far as the units themselves, we just touched on the air conditioning, and again, I couldn't get a real good temperature split. The temperature split is the temperature of the air going in to be conditioned and the air coming out that is conditioned. We're looking for 14 to 22 degrees. And I was getting about 8, 9, 10 in both units. So it's substantially low, which just is a signal that it's not operating very efficient. Okay, as far as the bigger issues with the house, there's only a couple of issues.
Yeah, just one?
Yeah, if we can, let's just take a break and get Rusty going, sorry.
Easier to go here. So you're going to see various areas in both structures like this. And what that tells me is that it's had drywood termites in the floor. Could still be there, don't know. I don't see any evidence of a prior treatment. Doesn't mean it has not been treated. I just don't see, by law, we have to affix a sticker, like the one that I just placed on the inside of that cabinet door.
It says what?
That says what I did here today, whether it was a treatment or an inspection. Of course, today was just an inspection. So in your attic, there's evidence that the house has had an active infestation of drywood termites. So I'm going to do these backwards. This is in the garage, and that's drywood termites, and if I had taken a better picture, this dark is what we call frass. So it's the droppings from
And that's
the
in the garage?
That's in the garage.
Uh-huh.
And that's a bunch of frass there on the floor of the garage. So it's out of a rafter. So the garage has been basically rebuilt, but the damage and the evidence is still there. So I have to list it. And that board there, more damage. It's all. This is all in the garage right here. More damage in the garage. Corner beam in the garage, the studs in the garage. That's also garage. Garage. That's wood decaying fungi on the end of that rafter. So the rafter had rotted out, and these are what they put in to replace that strength that the roof line needed. More damage in the garage. This is the floor, the areas that I'm showing you.
I see it here.
Yeah.
Here.
There's various areas. I'm not going to take a picture and list every single one.
So there's a feeler, right?
Yeah, everything that you see in the floor, you know.
All those patches. That's
All
the
these little
drywood
patches are.
Now this is in the attic. So this is some damage from drywood termites in the attic. More damage from drywood termites in the attic. My guess is that this house will probably be standing in another 100 years, but I still see no evidence that the house has been treated. I don't see anything alive, but I'm going to need to list this as presumptive evidence of activity of drywood termites. Now, if the seller can provide documentation saying that it's been tented in the not too distant past, then you're
Probably
okay.
not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So to protect yourself, I would either require the seller to have it tinted for you or do it yourself. There's nothing that's going to fall down here. In the crawl space, there's a couple of beams that has wood rot to it and it's kind of decayed out. Under the bathroom, there's some decay there as well. Again, this place is probably going to be standing in another 100 years.
What about the, is it?
Attic damage is insignificant, but there's damage in the attic.
Okay. How about the garage? Is it on fixed to?
Been sistered in. So where I showed you that one board, normally there's one, they've got 3 there.
All right, so it's stable.
It's stable. The gentleman over there is much more of an expert in that field. I just have to list, that was wood decaying fungi on the one rafter tail, and then a bunch of the studs have drywood termite damage. My unprofessional opinion, he's the expert, is that what they did is sufficient, that building's not gonna fall down, but he's the man.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
I would tent it and be done with it, and your peace of mind that there's nothing
Do you
in here.
rent or no?
I don't.
You don't?
When you call around for estimates, call 3 companies, get 3 different estimates, because one's gonna be $4,300 and one's gonna be $1,800. As long as it's a good company and they're gonna stand behind the warranty, keep the warranty in force, keep it up. Should be about $200 to $300 a year maximum to keep the warranty up. It's just smart to do it, because you take good care of your home, they may not. Or 2 blocks over may not. When they storm and the wind is blowing this way, they do
They have to
reinfest.
do it, yeah.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, back to John.
I'm going to take off.
Okay.
That's you.
Oh,
There's another key in the main door of the garage. Do you want to
okay,
get it
but
for
you need
me?
my stuff, right? You stuff in my car.
Yeah.
So can you put this?
In the car.
No,
In the lock.
yeah, in the back shed, in the open.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right. Where were we? We were talking about 4 points up.
Yeah.
And the air conditioning, these temperature splits are pretty low. Going back to the outside of the house. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just got to ask about the AC. I mean, I know, you know, you can't give a definitive answer about this, but do you think it's just a matter of them being serviced?
I think this one could probably be serviced. Well, they could both be serviced, but I think that one's probably gonna die in the next few years.
And what year is it?
That one's 2001.
2001,
So it's 19 years
that's
old.
19 years, so yeah, it's at the end of its life expectancy.
Yeah, I mean, you could service it and prolong its life until it just totally stops working. You know, I mean, that's usually, I mean, that's what a lot of people do. They'll just keep servicing them. And if it works, it works. I mean, it's not like it's super uncomfortable in here. It's just not working efficiently.
And it's like about 40,000 to replace?
No. That HVAC system? For that?
Did you
unit
say
next door?
40,000?
No, 4,000.
Oh, yeah, about
Yeah.
that's probably about right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 5. Yeah.
Because I mean, they do have to get into the attic and, they'll probably have to cut a hole in the ceiling and get it up there that way because the attic access is in that closet next door. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's a nightmare getting in there. Anyway, so back to the exterior. The foundation has been completely redone. It's a new foundation. All the piers are solid concrete block. They all have the metal flange, to prevent or help prevent the termites. There are a few electrical issues down there, and a little bit of deterioration at some of the sill plates around the perimeter locations. And there's evidence of prior leaks underneath the kitchen, at least on this side. This toilet, real quick, is loose, and it's leaking underneath into the crawl space.
Oh, God.
So, I wanted to say that now because we were talking about
Is
the crawl
that
space.
a wax ring thing, you think?
Yeah, it's completely loose. I mean, and it's a continuous heavy drip down there.
So that must be taken care of.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is a 4-point item, the toilet. There's also towards the back of the house, a plumbing drain that has a rubber boot, and it's leaking at that boot, which isn't nearly as important as this, but they both need to be corrected nonetheless. As far as the electrical defects under the house, there's some frayed wires. There's some wires that the Romex casing has been able to shoot off or pulled off, maybe by a squirrel, I don't know, who knows. And then there's a few large circuit wires down there that terminate underneath the area, probably right over here, where who knows if they're connected to the panel, who knows if they're decommissioned, but it's, if they're alive, it's certainly unsafe, because, I had to crawl kind of around it because I couldn't tell if they were alive. I don't know if they're connected, but that should be evaluated and fixed if it needs to be fixed.
Is that a 4-point issue?
Yeah, all the electric issues are going to be 4-point.
Okay.
There's a junction box over underneath the kitchen area that doesn't have a cover. Should probably have a cover. And then while we're on electric, the panels out back, the labeling is real hard to read. So about half of the breakers you don't know what they're going to. There's mismatched breakers in the panel. There's Siemens, there's GE, there's Square D, and some of them. A panel manufacturer, which I'm pretty sure those are GE, but the label's been pulled off. It looks like a GE panel, but it could be something else, but it does look like a GE panel. A GE panel is supposed to have GE breakers installed. a Siemens panel, it's supposed to have Siemens breakers installed. Some of the breakers, the way they're installed, they're not hooking correctly on the bus bars. You saw them out there, they were looked kind of sideways and like they weren't really put in right. So a couple of issues need to happen with the panels. One is they need proper labeling. They need all matching breakers, and the breakers need to be set onto the bus bars. Underneath the panel for unit 1 is a knockout that used to have conduit connected to it, but the conduit worked itself loose somehow, fell down, and now there's just a big opening with exposed wires. So that needs to be repaired.
So in terms of replacing those breakers, how are we supposed to know? We just guess it as GE?
You'll have to have an electrician come out. There may be a serial number on the inside, like a UL number, and they can trace it by that. I'm pretty sure they're
But it's
GE.
the owner that needs to do it, right? Because it's a 4-point.
Well, it's definitely a 4-point issue.
Well, yeah, the negotiation of this is something we'll talk about. The real shorthand of it is that every contract is as is with the right to inspect. So the seller's not obligated to do anything. But if these things aren't corrected, we can't proceed with the deal.
Right.
And these issues would come up in any subsequent deal as well.
Right.
So generally, if we can get anything done, it's usually tied to these 4-point issues.
So back to the electric. Every outlet throughout both units is missing a ground. So yeah, there's no grounding, or at least not proper grounding. Yeah, so it's open ground. It may not be connected in there. It may not have proper grounding at the panels. And because of the miswire outlets or lack of grounding, the ground fault outlets. I think it's me 1 second. I think it was unit 1. Yeah, it was unit 1. The kitchen's obviously been updated a little bit, probably newer than a lot of the other components, which is why those outlets are working for the most part, at least in this one. But the ground faults aren't working in that unit, in the bathroom or the kitchen, due to improper ground. That's pretty much the nutshell of the electrical issues. But since it affects both units and every outlet more or less,
And in the kitchen and in the bathroom, it must, or at least in the kitchen, it must be a.
ground fault.
Yeah, it's that red button in the center of my
Exactly.
way.
So right now you don't have that protection. In the laundry room, unit 1, in the kitchen, unit 1, and in the bathroom, unit 1. And I think, let me just double check. I've got all my notes in my pictures. And this one's this bathroom too. So the only ground faults that are working are the ones in that kitchen here, unit 2. So,
No, I will tell you, the way we've been correcting this lately, because houses in this area, none of the outlets were grounded. My house, not a single outlet is grounded. I'm gonna have to deal with it at some point. But what happens is, all the outlets are on a circuit. So for instance, all of them in this room may be tied together. And that may be the lead one, that may be the first in the circuit. So what happens is, if an electrician comes and replaces that with a GFCI outlet, it governs all the others in that circuit. So that's the way we've been dealing with it recently.
I did it in the front of my house. And I paid $200 for this woman to do the whole thing.
Was she an electrician?
okay, now the water here for this unit is concealed in the kitchen. I couldn't get to it. It's behind the panel. The water heater in there is 2015, it looks like. Make sure I'm not missing anything important. Because I mean, it's in pretty good condition. I mean, these are little odds and ends, but the house is in good
But
condition.
it's thousands of dollars, those are.
It could be.
Well, I think the biggest deal is the fact that we've got an older AC. The electrical issues that we're talking about is going to wind up being $400 or $500 worth of work. Were there any? Oh, it's going to be a couple of $100 for the plumber. Maybe $100 or $150 or something like that. I think all told, aside from the AC, the repairs are going to be under $1,000. The 4-point stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, most everything here is electric. I mean, the plumbing issue here at the toilet, it's obviously loose, it's leaking, and then there's a drain boot.
I'm going to revise that. I think the electric is going to be closer to $700 or $800 by the time everything gets done. I think we're probably looking at $1,000.
And separating the shed.
But that's a whole different issue.
I know, but that's also.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So,
Oh, yes, and that would be a thing, you know? We could definitely, you know, when we negotiate having them do the electric stuff, talk to the electrician about doing that, and getting a couple of quotes for that. Be a good idea.
Actually, I have an electrician in the house today, an electrician,
Mm-hmm.
because we're putting AC in front.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think for the age of the house, it's in pretty good condition. It looks like it's been maintained, you know, pretty well. It's got, you know, your typical things you see in houses, you know, cracking up above doors and windows like that. That's all stress cracking caused by movement over time. But I don't think you'll see anything new happen, at least probably for a number of years, because the foundation is really nice. It's,
What is this? An opening to what?
no idea. Oh, that would be a cleanup for the chimney. This is a chimney, or it was the chimney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any telling when the foundation was redone?
I looked at the permits this morning. I got the roof, the windows, the 2007 air conditioner, and one other thing, but there was no mention of, there was no permit for that.
But that's fantastic, though. In fact, the whole foundation is done, that's huge.
It's great. It looks, I mean, that's really
I
nice.
have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Over here, there's an opening to go into the bathtub, which seems like it can be moved. The other one is.
There's like a panel on that. I don't know what it is. It's supposed to access the plumbing, but
But on the other side, you cannot move it.
Was it painted shut or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to break the seal.
so here's some. Let me get to here first. Here's some foundation. These are all the new piers. All solid concrete block. That's right in the center of the house between the two units. So it's all been redone. Looks nice. That's that leak under the toilet. See if there's anything wrong in here. Evidence of leaks under that kitchen at some point. It's not leaking now, but the wood's a little bit, you know.
Is there anything that's gonna be on the report that's gonna get mentioned that we're gonna have to address that it would be valuable to take a look at physically right now where we may not be able to track where it is on the report?
Say again?
So sometimes we see stuff on the report and it mentions something and it's like, well, where the hell is that? Is there anything like that that won't be evident on the report?
No, I'll just put everything in the summary so it's real easy.
Well, yeah, no, I just mean the location of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as far as like the outlets are concerned, you know, it's basically going to be every outlet.
Uh-huh.
You know, something, you know, your little things like door stoppers, you know, little odds and ends, but I mean, it's a good house, man, it's solid. So, that's about it. Unless you have any questions, concerns, comments?
No?
Okay.
All right.
It's pretty.
And so what'll happen is we'll get the report tomorrow, I would imagine.
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay. And so we'll get the report and then we'll have a chance to look at all this stuff. Meanwhile, I'll call the other agent and I will sort of give her a heads up about, you know, what's going on here, that there's gonna be,
Electric work. And
electric
toilet.
and plumbing work. You know, this all 4-point stuff. Anyhow, and then you and I will talk more about the actual, you know, how we're gonna negotiate stuff and everything. But do you have any more specific questions for him about the inspection itself?
I mean, in my mind, it's just like, how much do you think it's gonna take to do the electric for the shed?
Oh, I have no
You
idea.
don't know, okay, so that's not.
That's, you know,
to us.
So what we're gonna do is, I mean, let's get an electrician out here fast, you know, to
I'm gonna, when I go home, in now.
well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and contact Martha, the listing agent. Let her know what's going on and see how fast she can get somebody out. I'm sure she has somebody. As long as it's a licensed electrician, then it has some credibility. And we'll at least have something to go off of. So when he comes out here to give a quote about repairing all this other electric work, we're gonna say, look, we want to establish, you know, new electric there. Now, part of the challenge with that is that we've really got to have Duke Energy has to come out and send their engineer to survey the place to determine where the mast should go. And they're gonna tell the electrician, but it's gonna go somewhere. I mean,
But
that's
another
doable.
possibility is that there's a sub panel and that says how much the shed is drawing, and it's taken off the rent.
So what's the question? I'm
There are
missing.
two ways to do it, either to have like a completely separate,
Mhm.
and they pay the bill, or it's connected to the apartment over here, and then by the end of the month, you look, okay, you use the 100 whatever, and it cost you,
Yeah, I mean, you still have to have someone from Duke come out, because it's some sort of metering device that would meter the usage on that circuit. So, I mean, I'm sure that can be installed too, but that just depends on what you want to do,
Mhm.
you know, how you want to handle it.
I mean, if this is $1,000 and this is $200, it's no brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, well, all that's gonna be determined.
Yeah,
But the important thing is it can be done.
yeah. Cool,
All right.
thank you.
And
I
he's,
gave you the check, right?
and John is of course available once we get the report. If there's anything, needs any clarification or anything like that, he can comment on it. The sooner we ask him about any of this stuff, the better, because he,
I don't know what to ask, can you help me?
Yeah. Once you get the report, it'll make a lot more sense. You'll have
Yeah.
everything you need.
Yeah, of course.
And you'll get a better idea of everything that's happening.
yeah. But it's better to ask him now than it is a month from now where he's got no recollection now.
Okay. You not going to remember?
The next day, I don't remember anything. Getting old, man.
Yeah.
That's why I take pictures of everything.
I saw you a month ago in another house, my husband.
You saw me?
Yeah.
Which house was that?
55 and 26,
There was a yellow house on the corner.
brown.
Oh, yeah. Two-story?
No, one house, one story.
Yeah, St. Pete?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did. Yes, about a month ago.
Yes, see?
She was there, I was there, you were there.
Really?
Yes.
That's right.
Are you sure it was me?
Absolutely. Look at your papers.
Oh my
Look at
God.
I've got the video to prove it.
I can't remember anything anymore.
All right.
Man.
So it is, it's, what day is it? It's Tuesday, June 30th, 2020.